One of my favorite things about Thanksgiving is homemade turkey stock. And we're gonna learn to make it today on Bobby's Kitchen. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are making a delicious fresh turkey stock. We are using the scraps that are left over after our 1 hour, 2-ingredient Thanksgiving turkey roast. So make sure you check out that episode to see how that's done. It came out awesome. We have leftover bones from that. They are perfect for roasting up and making a delicious fresh stock. And even more important, in the next episode, we're gonna take this stock and turn it into the best turkey gravy you could ever make for Thanksgiving. But let's get started. This is a real easy process. Let's break down some veg. Super easy veg breakdown today. We just need a rough chop. Just about like that. We're gonna put our veggies directly onto the pan with our turkey carcass. You can see we have the bones, the neck that came with the turkey. These are both the bones, the neck, and then we have the giblets. They always give you that bag of giblets. People don't know what to do with them. They make wonderful stock. Got a little half of celery here. It doesn't look like much because it's not much. I think a lot of people put too much veg in their stock, and then their stock ends up tasting all of vegetables and not of meat. You want it to be mostly meat, and then just a little bit of these aromatic vegetables go a long way. Again, rough chop, just break it up. I haven't peeled these. You don't need to peel for this. All this veg is just for aroma, and the peels actually add extra flavor and color. We've got some garlic cloves. I'm just gonna do a rough smash, just the heel of my hand, give it a little pop, just to release the flavor. That's all we want. And we are going to get this oiled up. All right, everything is on the pan. We're just gonna get a little oil on it. I'm using avocado oil. Any high smoke point oil will do. I'm not giving you an oil measurement because it doesn't really matter, because all of the oil in a stock will be skimmed out by the end. So it's not going to affect your nutritionals at all. Stock is a free food. You just need the oil to help everything brown. So I am going to use my hands and just rub all over the carcass and the veg. This is going to help everything brown up beautifully. We are making a brown stock today. You can make what's called white stock, where you don't roast anything. It has less flavor. You don't get all that nice toasty caramelized bits. And if you're gonna make a gravy, you really want that roasty gravy. So we're gonna do a roast today. I'll show you guys a white stock another time. But real simple, that's all there is to it. Just oil all over everything. Try not to crowd your pan too much. This pan's a little bit small because I'm doing everything in a countertop oven. But if you're using a full-size sheet pan at home, you can really spread things out, which helps with the roast. I've got my oven at 400 degrees. It's probably gonna take 45, 50 minutes, somewhere around there. We're gonna turn everything about once, halfway through, so it browns evenly. And we're just looking for a nice, deep brown, but no black. We don't want any black because that makes our stock bitter. Let's get in the oven. Our bones are out of the oven and they are looking toasty and delicious. It smells great in here. This whole process, it takes time to make stock, but it's really easy. You don't have to do much, you're just waiting. I love to do it on a day where I have other things to do around the house, like laundry day or whatever. And then you just got your bones roasting and your stock bubbling and everything smells great. And you're just waiting, you're passing time. So we have our bones roasted. We are gonna transfer them to our stock pot. We also have a couple of fresh bay leaves. I always use fresh bay leaves. The dried ones don't taste like anything. And I feel like a lot of people are like, they don't even want to put bay leaves and things because it's like, what's the point? There is a point if you use the fresh ones because they actually have a nice wintergreen, like evergreen kind of flavor, and they're really delicious. I also have some whole black peppercorns going right in. Now let's get our bones in here. Be careful, they are hot. the bones, the neck. We got our giblets, so it's like the liver and the heart and stuff. I know that might sound gross to some people, but it makes for great stock. It's all getting filtered out in the end. This is just going to be a nice clear broth at the end. Veggies all go into the pot. You're going to do what's called a deglaze. That is when you have these beautiful brown bits stuck to the bottom of your pan, and they make for delicious stock, but you need to get them off the pan and into the stock pot. And a really easy way to do that, some people use wine, which is really good. I don't want to bring in the extra calories here. I'm just going to use boiling water. I've got some pre-boiled water. I'm going to pour it into my pan, just enough to coat. Yeah, I hear you, John Ringo. Just enough, that's my cat. Enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And then we will take a sturdy wooden spoon or spatula, and we're going to scrape those bits out. Just scraping up all the brown bits. You can see how that water is already starting to take on the color, and that's what we want. Beautiful roasty brown stock. And all those little bits that are in there are going to get filtered out at the end. We always filter our stocks. That looks pretty good to me. Grab my other oven mitt, and we're just going to carefully pour it all into our pot. Beautiful. Everything is in the pot, and we are going to top this off with cold water. Very important to start with cold water when you're making stock. That will bring out and coagulate certain proteins that you don't want in your final product because they'll make your stock cloudy. So you always start with cold water and only fill it to about 1 inch over your bones or whatever you're making a stock out of. If you fill it too much, you could always reduce your stock later, but reducing for a long time causes a lot of your flavor to boil off. So we always fill it to just 1 inch over our bones, and then if it gets lower, we can always top it up as we're cooking. The pot is topped up. We're on our burner. Let's get it going. I'm going to use medium-high heat to bring this up to temperature. We don't want to do it super fast, but we want to get it up. Now, it's very important. We're not bringing it to a boil, not even at first. We're just going to bring it to the barest of simmers. When I mean bare simmer, I mean that you're going to see one bubble every like 2 seconds. So get it there and then lower your heat all the way down to the lowest setting possible. You shouldn't see bubbles continuously rising. Just one bubble every few seconds is all you need. That's going to extract all that collagen from those bones and that skin, turn it into beautiful gelatin. It's going to make a lip-smacking, delicious stock. Also really good for skin and hair and all that stuff. So let's just bring it up to the barest of simmers. The first 30 minutes, we will skim the stock. You can use a ladle for this. I like to use, it's a stock skimmer. It's just a really fine strainer so I can get the stuff off the top without ladling out my stock. But you can just carefully do it with a ladle. I always keep my skimmer in a thing of hot water to rinse it off between skims. The first 30 minutes is when the scum and the oil are going to come to the top. You'll see how we skim it off. And then after that 30 minutes, you're just letting your stock simmer for 3 hours. I know that's a long time, but you don't have to do anything. Let it simmer for 3 hours, and then we're going to strain it out and have a perfect turkey stock. It has been about 10 minutes, and we are going to do our first skim. We will be doing 3 skims, one every 10 minutes for the first 30 minutes, and then we'll just let this stock ride. You can see that there's this kind of foam forming from the proteins that came out from that cold water heating up, and there's also droplets of oil on the top. And that's the kind of stuff we want to just gently skim out. You know, if you get a peppercorn here and there, it's not a big deal. You'll see the bones look like they're not covered, but that's only because poultry bones float. So sometimes you have to push them down a bit to get underneath and just pull out that oil and that foam. Just going around, pushing down, being gentle. You can see the oil sits on that skimmer. If you're using a ladle, you have to pull a little bit of liquid out with it. Just make sure you don't get too much. And this just makes for a very clear stock, and a very clean flavor. If you were to skip this step, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I like to do it. It just makes a really good stock. You can see how bright green our nice fresh bay leaves are, and you might be thinking, I can really smell them right now too. You might be thinking, but if I buy fresh bay leaves, they're just going to go bad because I won't use them that much. For one thing, they're very resilient and stay good for about a month in the fridge, but even better than that, you can put them in a zip-top bag, stick them in your freezer, and they'll stay good forever. You just pull them out one at a time as needed, but they will be fresh, not dried, and they will have tons of flavor. You can see I'm already starting to see a nice clear stock underneath as I get rid of the scum and the fat. Exactly what we want. Mostly seeing water with just a few droplets of fat. We will slowly get those out, and we will be back in another 10 minutes for one more skim. Alright, it's been 10 more minutes. Let's get another skim in. Just get rid of these foamy bits. See the fat coming up. This is actually a very clean stock. I might not even bother with a third skim after this because it's looking like it's going to be pretty good to go. It's one of the advantages of a brown stock is that the roasting process makes it much easier to skim. You get a lot less foam than when you start with raw bones in a white stock. Alright, that's looking mighty clean. I'm going to skip our third, and then we're just going to go right into the simmer. We'll let it go for about 2.5 more hours, and we will be ready to strain. It has been 3 hours, and we are looking great, and the house is smelling wonderful. My dog and my cats are going crazy. Luckily, they get to get the little bits of meat that are left on the bone. They love it. They love stock day. So we are going to strain this. We have a few options. I will show you what I'm using. This is called a chinois. That's what we call this in the culinary world. It is a fine strainer. It's conical shaped to bring everything down to the center. It's what we use in restaurants. I know a lot of people don't have them. You have other options such as, just a mesh strainer like this that a lot of people have at home. And if you don't have one of those, you can take a colander. You can put some cheesecloth or some paper towels in it to make it a fine strainer and put everything through that. It'll take a little bit longer for it to pass through, so you might not be able to get it to go all at once, but that's all right. Just take your time with it. I like to just take some tongs and take the big chunks out, put them aside in a bowl. Like I said, I let it cool. Stuff like this, people don't want it, but you let it cool and then you pick the meat off, and if you have pets, boy, do they love it. So go ahead, let your broth strain off. This is also just going to make it easier to strain. When you dump it through the strainer, you don't want huge chunks falling and splashing everywhere. That's probably good for the big stuff. We're going to go over to the sink, give it a quick strain. Our beautiful stock is finished, and we are gonna quart it up here. It's important when you finish a stock to let it cool down a little bit before it goes into your fridge. You don't want a super hot stock warming up everything in your fridge. That's not good. I like to divide it, for stock in this amount, I like to divide it into about 2 containers, 2 or 3, something like that. When it's in smaller containers like this, it will cool down quicker because it has more surface area, and you want that stock to cool down fast. You don't want to give it a chance to, develop any nastiness. We're going to put it in 2 containers. We're going to leave the lids off while it cools. Once it hits something near around room temperature, we will lid it and it will go into the fridge. it will stay good in the fridge for up to a week and indefinitely in the freezer. This stock freezes great. You will see that when it gets cold, it will get kind of jelly-like, and that is exactly what we want. That's perfect. That's all that delicious, nutritious gelatin that we got out of the bones. You want your stock to look like jelly when it's refrigerator cold, and when you warm it up, that'll melt down and just give you a luscious, perfect mouthfeel. That's a wrap on homemade turkey stock. Now remember, in most cases, this is a free food. It's very low in calories, but 4 cups does equal half a red. So if you were to have a full 4 cups, you would get half a red out of that. And just remember, once it's chilled, there's a tiny bit of oil left on top of these. We skimmed most of it off. Once it's chilled, that oil will solidify and you can just scrape it off with a spoon, so you will have a completely defatted stock. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Bobby's Kitchen. And make sure you check out our gravy episode where we take this wonderful homemade stock and turn it into a luscious, velvety roast turkey gravy that's going to be the perfect accompaniment to our Thanksgiving turkey. And remember, if you want more recipes, please like and subscribe. We need subscribers to keep the channel going, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.